feel like we're just going to get Jarla in every top 8. Whether he, continues to top 4, top 2, whatever, we'll have to see. But I think Jarla is just continuing to prove that he's just going to make it out of groups every week and not really worried about that side of it.
Yeah, he's absolutely crushing it in GM. I know, and I'll give the shout out, of course. Like, Ranlit, we see you, I saw it, and I know currently Letta has the best stats in terms of GM win rate. I did see your tweet, and I acknowledge that fact. However, sample size is not there in comparison to Jarla, right? So I'm not going to put him on that pedestal until at least he gets through his first full season of Grandmasters. And that's as someone who said from day one, even back when he won the Masters Tour, this is a player I'm really excited about. It's someone who I think could be a really big standard bearer for coming through the Masters Tour and actually proving themselves to be one of the best players in the world when they get to hang in Grandmasters with everyone else. But he needs to do that over time. And until he does that, I'm going to keep talking about Jarla being, the best player in European Grandmasters over a large sample size.
And maybe even after he does that, I'm going to continue to talk about Jarla.
Because why not?
Because just why not? I'm just used to it by now. Hey, back in this game, back in the present, both players having encounters on 2, so we can say fair game so far, so to speak, on both players' sides. Jarla just digging in with more card draw, but now is an interesting choice of whether he could just go for that Apexis Blast, although you feel like the damage is a little bit wasted if you aim it at the minion. Like, there's a Brain Freeze that does that job. He could just do both. Brain Freeze the minion, Apexis Blast the face. I think I like that the most.
Now you're thinking. I know you can't see me, but my face screwed up beyond all recognition. Why is he talking about Apexis blasting the minion? What lunacy is this?
Because it's an option. He could do it. And I presume your face always looks like that when I'm talking, so I don't need a camera for that, so.
Not far off, actually. When I was asking for someone to give me a collage of, like, all the players' stank face when something disgusting happened to them on the other side? Yeah, mine's just listening to you talk. Oh, sequencing like an absolute champion. Card game lord Jarla over here.
Well, do you even come back from that, from Felkeine's side? Never mind in game, but even emotionally at this point.
Oh, just got outplayed. As soon as that happens, you just have to be like, my opponent's too good. They thought of everything. They're going to play around combustion the entire game. Their sequencing's going to be on point. They're going to know the odds of every single random outcome. There's just no way.
Yeah, the day when Jarla gets like bamboozled by someone, it's going to be one of those things where like the human beats the machine, right? Like finally, isn't it? Like the AI can be beaten.
Join the pack.
Well, that's a 4-4.
Top tier analysis is always solid. I like it.
Yep.
Okay, nothing too crazy coming down here from the font. He can, of course, reduce that Netherwind to 1. Only 1 mana reduction, though. It's kind of a cute little secret package combo he's got going, though, hasn't he?
With the smuggler as well.
Yeah,
like, Jarla cannot resist this, right? Like, he just looks at this combination and is like, whoa, the value.
Yeah, too much value.
Like, I've just realised that this is the greatest truism in Hearthstone history. Are you ready for this? This is the one and only best comparison you'll ever hear. Jarla is Trump if Trump was good at Hearthstone.
Oh, that is very true.
Yeah.
I can't even pick at that, Sol, because I think every word you just said is fact.
Sorry, Trump, I love you. You know I love you.
Still funny, though. Suddenly, Felkeine's really behind on board, doesn't really have the cards in hand to get him anyway. He's going to try a font of power for himself, but his card's slightly less combo-based. Oh, it's just gotten worse. It's one of those weird issues where you actually don't want all this card draw. You just want the card you're looking for at this point. Brain Freeze can at least kill the, well, whatever Felkeine deems the most threat. I guess it would still just be the Kel'Thuzad Hade. Even though the other 2 minions that were killable have, like, live effects ongoing.
Yeah, I think because you're dropping the devolving missiles after the fact, it's just kill the one with the highest mana cost, right? And then just dig in from there. Makes sense.
And although Jarla likes, you know, absolute maximum value at all times, I think after seeing how much Felkeine struggled to even remotely deal with that board, this just looks like, guess what? A Pexis Blast to face again.
Can't see why not. He's got some boxes to open first with the Font of Power if he wants to go that way. Looks like he is. And then from this point onwards, it does just look like a pretty clean Apexis Blast. He does pick up Arcane Luminary, though, which I feel like we're just seeing every game at this point. It's so insane when you get it off Font of Power. But, I mean, Apexis Blast into Jandis? Like, that's got to be a tough curve to beat, surely.
And the thing is, I think right now, the Luminary doesn't achieve much, right? There isn't tons of generated cards there. Obviously the minions get reduced, but it's not enough to warrant spending 3 mana on it, so I do like this turn. Felkeine gonna try and go off himself now with Refreshing Spring Water to draw. Again, there's just nothing quite good enough. The board is big enough that Mask doesn't feel strong. Maybe Brain Freeze Mask is just the best turn here for Felkeine. It would activate his 2 Ring Toss in hand.
Do you like this Wormweaver business? Yeah, alongside the Brain Freeze.
The old Brainweaver play. Yeah.
You know, Brainweaver into Worm Freeze. What a combination. But yeah, this does a lot, right? He kind of counter-develops a board, which is important because he knows he's going into Mask turns. I think as fast as some of the other Mage games have gone past, I think I have seen this as a mistake that I kind of wanted to call out, is that players have played too reactively going into their opponent's turn 7. I think generally in the Mage Mirror, even if you're behind, it's better to create board tension like this going into turn 7 than it is to just spend all of your mana removing their board and then just getting masked for 10 anyway from an empty board, right? Like, at least this gives you a potential to counter swing. You do play into Flame Strike doing it this way, but generally they play 1 Flame Strike, 2 Mask, so statistically it's just better to do it that way around. And you're getting the secrets up in this particular instance from Felkeine, which kind of plays around just straight up 7 mana Flame Strike coming down with Counterspell anyway.
Hey, Jarla does get the knowledge now, though. He proc the Ice Barrier, but did not proc a Counterspell. So got to draw a card and Flame Strike the board away. Again, Felkaine's hand just... Yeah, Felkeine, I think your visible response is accurate. There's just not a lot to get done here. Like, he can clean up this annoying board, but doesn't progress his game plan himself.
Yeah, Ping Combustion, good. No positioning issues there, of course. That was random positioning due to a Devolving Missiles a couple of turns earlier from Felkeine. So, small minion in the middle, of course. No skin off Jarla's nose, who has already proven that he will sequence everything perfectly for this entire series.
Also, Felkeine sequenced that pretty well too, right? He would have pinged the minion away if he'd played this minion first.
Yep. Yeah, good catch.
Now, Jarla doesn't know this isn't rigged fair game, so do you think there's actually a chance we see like Jandis ping face at this point?
Doesn't know this isn't rigged fair game. Yeah, you're right, because he procced an
He attacked last turn. Yeah, he procced Ice Barrier and obviously dealt damage. Oh! Okay, well he knows now, so he can make a different play with maybe one of those many combustions he has in hand. At least, I love Felkeine, honestly. I wish he could just be on camera for every game, regardless of whether he's playing or not.
Mage Mirrors are dumb, but they are objectively entertaining. Like you can't argue with it.
Now he's going to devolve and like hit the Jandis once.
Yep. Yeah, Jandis once and turns 2 of the 2/2 taunts into Flame Imps.
No, he hits the 4/6, so there's no weak minion anymore, right?
Ah, good point. Okay, yeah. So Jandis once, 2/2 into a Flame Imp, and then the Felsoul Jailer into the, what is it, 5/10 taunt that's a 4-drop?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
You win this.
Wow, and that's just going to be game number 1. Not much to do there. Jarla, you know, got some really good outcomes from some of that the generation minions there, especially with that Kel'Thuzad in the early game. But he leveraged it as well, right? He kept the pressure high, and we saw that Felkeine's draw was just not quite there. He had like double mask that never really did anything or achieved much. If they were going to be played, they might have, you know, chipped away at a couple of minions, and that's it. So yeah, this was really the big turn here. Felkeine, oh, feels that one. It's like we're in Hearthstone anime mode where actually the players feel the damage that they take and that the minions take.
Yep, that one definitely makes the stank face highlight reel. But yeah, I think when you're playing a Mage Mirror and you get what 16 stats off your Apexis Blast, yeah, you're probably going to win that game at that point. But you have to hold your hands up and say deserved, right? Like he sequenced it in the correct way. Because I was kind of making fun of you at that point of like, you know, you took 3 attempts to get to the good play, and then Jarla picked up the Apexis Blast, and I was like, oh no, what if Jarla like Apexis Blast the minion now? But then of course that's just the correct way to do it. You just Apexis Blast the face first. You could get Mizaki, you could get Headmaster Kel'Thuzad. There's a variety of things that you can pick up that are to your benefit there for playing the Apexis Blast first. So it was hard to come back from that point. It's hard to come back from the point where player 1 goes Apexis Blast first and just hits a 6 health minion. It's hard enough to just come back from that point because you can Apexis Blast it right back, let alone when they get a whole other 3-3 alongside that as well.
Well, diving into game number 2 here. Of course, this is the best of 3 specialists, so if Jarla wins this game, he is done. He wins and goes through to tomorrow. Both players have locked in their primaries again. Subtle. So do you actually think a conversation was had yesterday that decided that the counterspell build wasn't as good?
The only other thing I can theorize, right? Well, there's 2 possibilities. One, we're idiots and we're misremembering that they swapped yesterday, which I don't think is the case. I'm pretty sure they did swap yesterday.
I can just check.
But the other case is that because they're now playing against Deck of Lunacy builds, which they both are, but obviously they weren't in the mirror yesterday, that's changing the idea of whether they want to substitute or not, which is kind of interesting to think about, I guess.
Well, only Zim changed yesterday, to be fair. Felkeine did not when they played each other. So Felkeine stuck to his primary, Zim changed to his tertiary, and Zim lost that series, so...
Interesting. Good to know. Mystery solved. What we're saying is Zim is the odd one out of the practice group.
Yeah, I guess in the approach to the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this might be part of the consideration as to why as well. Like, in that build with their counterspells, they cut combustions. And I think you see very often these many mage mirrors we've cast over the last couple of days. Minions like this pop up all the time, especially in the early game. And sometimes combustion just gets the job done.
That is extremely a 5-2. What do we deal with that? Yeah, I like ring toss here. Counter and Netherwind, I would imagine.
Yeah, me too.
Yep, that's what he's got.
Fireball face.
And yeah, Jarla looks pretty dead, if I'm honest, at this point. Yep. Yeah, Felkeine rubs his hands together. He is very much excited to see that one. And that is Incanter's Flow number 2 with Refreshing Spring Water number 2 in his hand, Raven.
Looks pretty good for me. I do like this, though, that Felkeine's just sitting back. He's not just jamming it. He wants to think about how the turn will progress, because I think seeing that fireball has said, wow, Jarla's hand must be very bad, which means Felkeine can grab this win and not get knocked out.
Yeah,
go for Caldara.
Yeah, just goes for the big boy. Boulder Fist Ogre hitting the board. I love to see it, personally. Big minion come down, resistant to Fireball, having just seen the one Fireball coming down, resistant to Apexis Blast, and actually pretty resistant to Devolving Missiles as well, just because of the native high mana cost. It means he's going to be left with a reasonable sized minion after the fact. He's going to try and go minions first, and then go with the big explosive turn with the Incanter's Flow.
Nice, not a minion you want to brain freeze without some way to deal 1 damage after the fact.
I mean, it's a minion that you want to devolving missiles like every other minion in Hearthstone.
Yes.
Outside of that, you are correct.
What was it? Everyone thinks they're cool until they've been hit in the face by a 9-1.
Everyone thinks they gangster. That's how it goes.
I did the PG version, sorry.
Yeah.
Time runs out on me.
Bless our Lord and Saviour, Keaton Chucky Gill.
I imagine Jarla, yeah, does go for the card draw instead of the burn because I don't think he's in any shape to have enough burn to do anything with, and he's going to divert a little bit here and go for the Deck of Lunacy. And I think that's a fair shout, honestly, because at this point, with so few cards in hand, he needs something quite miraculous to happen.
Agreed. And I think you see that in Felkeine's reaction as well, where I think he would have felt like he had something like 99% win rate from this position with just, you know, mage versus mage, but now it's mage versus every spell in Hearthstone. Obviously, some slightly more ridiculous things can happen, and his win rate has probably gone down. Not by much. I still think he's massively favoured from this position, but I do think Deck of Lunacy was the right call from Jarla there, just to try and scam his way out of this position somewhat.
Oh, it says explode!
Wow, just going in. Okay, sure.
Minions, minions, minions.
No!
Alright, now Jarla. Soul Mirror.
We've played this game before, Jarla, but you were on the other side. You need a Soul Mirror, mate.
Yep.
That's what you're looking for. That is Fel Guardians, not Cycle, right? Those are the two that I still just get the art mixed up on.
Yes, they're the minions, the taunt minions.
3/1/2 taunts, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hex, Libram of Hope.
What's happening?
Combustion, I imagine.
Gonna combust the 9-1? Sure. You still need a ping, right?
Need a few pings, I think, so these 1-1s don't have rush.
Felkeine, hold. It's enough.
Stop!
I think Felkeine's absolutely fine with that so far.
Yeah, I was going to say, at this point, I think Felkeine's probably okay that there aren't primes getting shuffled in his deck. I think he's more than okay with that.
3 damage needed. None of those deal damage. Might just be cram session. And you're double flowed, like every card draw is just worth its weight in gold. It just converts so quickly back into tempo when your deck is as cheap as it is.
Do you think he could just pick Netherwind because he has so much card draw already? I guess he already has a Netherwind too.
Job's done.
Either way, that's a ton of damage going up to Jarla, and there's not a lot of chances at a comeback here. You just have Libram of Hope, one of the rare moments that Mage does have healing, and we can see Felkeine doesn't have access to any burn yet, but it's just a matter of time. You can't test for a counterspell, can he?
I wonder.
Oh, that Hex has actually ruined him, hasn't it?
You mean using it on the previous turn?
Yeah, well, it being a 0-1 that's there, because if it wasn't, he can double trade the 1-1s into the 4-4s, and then the Fel Guardians become cheap enough to test for counterspell to unlock the Libram.
Oh!
That Hex is actually a nightmare.
That's so true. Yeah, there's no way to scam it, is there?
Yep, no, because well, pinging obviously completely annihilates the problem, because that's the whole point, is mana cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just can't.
Yeah, you could ping the frog, but it still only kills 2 minions, so you're only just getting your mana back. You still can't test for counterspell at that point.
So what he can do now is Fel Guardians, he finds the counterspell and initiation now.
Yeah.
So this removes the damage off board, but he's on 3 health still, right? He's got on 3 health for an additional turn longer than he wanted to be.
Draw. Draw. Yup. 9.
How many fireballs does he have?
It's 9. He's dead. He's dead. There's only
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I didn't count. Lethal. Felkeine evens this series up 1-1. And the next game is going to be another Mage Mirror, of course, but more importantly, the winner is going to continue on to that top 4. And again, after seeing this week of Specialist, we have our break next week, which is due to a Masters Tour being played. But I would already be terrified of bringing in Mage, because it is won a lot, and that's true. But the mirrors feel so one-sided that it would scare me, right, to bring it and just be like, well, if everyone's still bringing Mage and I bring Mage, we're going to have some very, explosive but maybe uncontrollable Hearthstone.
I mean, clearly, Raven, you have merely adopted the mage. Some of us have been doing this since the 2-mana lunacy days, so we were molded by it. We are very experienced in how nonsense these mirrors end up being. I think a lot of these players are, prepared for this outcome. I think particularly if you sign up for Specialists. Obviously, I think we've heard the most complaints from European players this week about, I'm not really enjoying playing Specialists because I'm just playing Mage Mirrors all the time. And it's like, yes, my dudes, because you're the region where you all brought Mage. Look at what's happening over in APAC. It's actually been pretty cool.
I got a treat yesterday. I got to cast Hunter and Paladin, Soto.
Yeah, exactly.
How jealous are you?
Yeah. Raven was just hanging out on Americas casting Leoric's King Crush nonsense. It
was great.
Yeah.
But what? Someone needs cover for which matchup? Who's playing? There's Hunter and Paladin? I'm on my way.
But for real, though, I don't want to be seen as a specialist apologist. Obviously, this format does have its problems, but I do think the European players are digging their own grave a little bit, it needs to be said.
Well, Felkeine doing a good job of that Incanters, and I love the reactions to one player not having Incanters versus the other, because you could put any of our Grandmasters on camera, have that happen, and they all react.
They'll do it.
Even the most unresponsive players we have on camera, they all react to Incanters from their opponent on 2, without a doubt.
All right. Boom goes the Dynamite on the other side as well.
I was like, but could I get more value from this Incanters later? Well, no, that's literally the opposite of how Incanters works.
Do I need to Incanters slow this turn?
I mean, Fireball to face is a pretty reasonable choice. That 6 damage is always going to go face. Gonna review his options after Rundor.
Seems good.
Do you like biscuits?
Do like biscuits. Someone tweeted me yesterday. Apparently, if you type "do British" into Google, you know how it suggests questions based on the question? One of the suggested questions is, do British websites use biscuits? Which, in terms of bad British jokes, is actually quite good.
Yeah. Took me just 1 second, maybe half a second. I was like, no, okay.
It's quite funny.
Okay, I'm just chuckling now. It got me more than I thought it would. Hilo for Jarla, of course, he did get that Incanters for. It was going to be quite the remarkable turn if it wasn't played, but does need to get this card draw going. He tests for Counterspell and now finds out it's not.
Yeah, and now can still rip the Spring Water, still have the 4-mana refresh, the 4-mana refresh to be able to work with on this turn. Unfortunately, with how that interaction works with drawing Ring Toss, you do draw an uncorrupted Ring Toss. It is a shame. You'd love that to be corrupted by the Spring Water. But Spring Water can't do everything, okay? It already does enough. Shut up.
Wow. Damage, shut up. I didn't even say anything.
Yeah.
There is still plenty of card draw, though, for Jarla, that Arcane Intellect to help out, of course. Cram Session there on the far left for if and when this Phoenix is going to proc. And this is the type of turn, I know you talked earlier about a very early Phoenix, but this is the type of hand where you can easily play Phoenix and say, well, Cram Session exists, my burn exists, it's fine. But Felkeine, going to be pretty happy with that outcome as it Mirror Entity ended up being that secret.
Yeah, he was so happy with getting that Phoenix on the other side, and I think rightly so with the hand he has as well. He already has Mask, he already has Cram Session. Does have the opportunity for a pretty insane swing turn in a couple of turns' time.
Yeah, look at all this room for damage now that there's a Phoenix there. Brain Freeze is going to clean up this 3-4 very cleanly as well. wonder if I can handle all this card draw, so it's a lot, isn't it?
It's so much, yeah.
Ooh, okay. I'm guessing that was a counterspell pick, but my eye was drawn very briefly to the Oasis, purely because there is a Phoenix on board. I guess it's
as well, yeah.
I guess it's just unlikely the Phoenix requires a minion trade, right?
Right. Yeah, I think when your Phoenix wakes up, you're going to blow up any board they have, cast Mask for 1,000,000 damage, draw 50 cards with Cram Session, etc. Like, they're going to have
in the game,
to shoot,
go and grab a coffee.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. They're going to shoot a Brain Freeze at your 2/3 if it's still alive. They're not going to have a board left around to be dealing with it.
Oh. Okay. Gets to test one.
Oh, Felkeine is popping off. He is happy with the way this game 3 is going. I do love his secret timing, by the way. I think out of the Mage Mirror players so far, I think Felkeine has been the most vigilantly aware of how important Mask of Cthulhu is and has just done his best to disrupt it in various ways. Has been with the Wormweaver play earlier on in the series, now going with the secrets loading up into the 6-mana turn, which he knows will be the Mask turn with the Incanter's Flow one-time deck from Jarla. I think he's done a really, really good job of playing around that stuff specifically.
I also think just timing is even better when you consider that there's no way Jarla wasn't going to attack with that 1/1, right? Because it removes a certain element of secret knowledge, which he needs to decide his turn, right? So it's just kind of sick that he got a 1/1 as the only minion on board to proc his Ice Barrier, right? Like, that is like as good as it's ever going to get.
And we're off. Cram Session, discounted cards, refreshing Spring Water picked up, which now gets him all the way back to Flame Strike if he wants it, but he's going to go with the Brain Freeze instead. Save himself some mana, he can do much more efficient things, I'm sure, with some of these cards drawn. Still has Spring Water number 2 available. Can't Apexis Blast first, which is the only slightly irritating part of this turn.
What if he just does Apexis Blast first anyway? Because I think he wants to just start chucking some of this damage to face, right?
I kind of want to, like, Combustion Spring Water Mask this turn.
Okay.
Just because it's the clear board, right? And you guarantee...
Yeah, that makes sense,
damage.
Yeah. What if he gets a Calphazard? He's doing it! Oh, okay. A Tent Trasher instead.
Sure. Oh yeah, thank you, Derek, backing up my point as well with the Boulder Fist Ogre play, right? The Koldara Drake that he coined out instead of going for the card draw to block that same type of thing to play around mask damage hitting his face in the previous game. It's another one to add to the list. It's a great point. He does really seem to be hyper vigilant about those types of plays.
Yeah, I mean, if you narrow it down to its simplest form, right? One clean mask, as in not hitting any minions, takes a third of your health. Like, that's a lot. So, and then Mage, as we keep saying, doesn't really heal. Even this Ice Barrier activating is, I would say, a rarity in the mirror. So, yeah, I think it's a big deal. He saves a ton of health and makes Jarla really have to work for the damage to actually finish this game.
Mm-hmm.
What to do?
Now Jarla, though, with his Phoenix going off, does have this extra spell damage to play around with. And has a Brain Freeze. Those two things are very, very nice.
Yep. Alright, so 1 mana, your stuff's dead. Let's draw the cards. Pretty similar turn to what we're seeing from the other side, but so far, Jarla does not have the refresh with the Spring Water. He only has 1 remaining left in his deck at this point, but he is going to have a fairly straightforward turn.
Was that card draw really? I guess. I was just looking at Mask. It would deal 11 to face with only 1 health on that board. Now they're going for a completely different path though, right? Valuing card draw and activating these secrets will slow down Felkeine's next turn. I did just view it as a, a pretty reasonable Mask turn then when he found out what the secrets were, sorry, Joe.
Evolving Missiles hits the counterspell. Felkeine is now free to pop off with the Spring Water if he would like to. He's already spent 1 mana, so he's already going to get the full refresh back up to 7. Looks like he's going to hold on to it yet again, though, and just go with the Master Cthulhu here to clean up. I mean, Netherwind Portal comes down. Okay. Obviously good and bad. Good in that it can't attack, so it's not actually a relevant threat. Bad in that if there are any other relevant threats on the board, it buffs them up enormously. With every time you cast a spell, it gives them +1/+1. Doubly bad because I think Felkeine was just really wanted a minion to come out of that he could kill, right? Like I think you saw him even queuing up the Brain Freeze as the secret was going up, ready to deal with it. So I think, if that had just been like a regular vanilla 4/4 minion type of thing that you expect to see off Netherwind Portal, Felkeine would have been much happier overall.
Yeah, silver lining is, though, he does have a very nice way to test for counterspell. It's something we've seen yesterday a lot, with a lot of these super cheap or 0 mana spells being held onto to just proc secrets and then review the situation.
Yep.
Finally, Jarla's time to drop some of these masks. I know it doesn't really develop the board, but it's as empty. Like, it's as good as the mask going to get, and he has 12 mana to get through at some point.
Yeah, he's just going to devolve to deny 1 card here, which I do kind of like as well. Has to be masked now, right? No, he's going minions again with the Pexus Blast. I guess with the Watch Post on board, maybe he feels like this is to his benefit. Gets to push 1 extra damage face now with the getting the, what is it, Pearl Tusk? Something like that. Off the Pexus Blast to be able to rush into the minion. However, in doing that, he gets punished by combustion.
This is the biggest tower I've ever seen.
It's going to get pretty thick by the end of this turn.
But Felkeine's glad he's played his masks.
It's just the reverse questing adventurer challenge at this point. It's just how big a minion can you give your opponent? Yeah, like this.
Yeah, this is basically Felkeine trying to develop enough damage to push it over the edge, right? Jarla's on 15, Felkeine has Fireball and this Apexis Blast in hand. Now there's even more minions on board. He gains a coin, which isn't too shabby here, if this Tomb Pillager dies.
Yeah, big deal. You see there, remaining in the deck, there was 2 Ruined Orbs still, which I think are the key pickups now for Felkeine. If he can just weave in like 1 or 2 more pings, then on 10 mana he does just have lethal from hand as soon as he can hit a Ruined Orb.
That tower is nothing compared to a Patient Assassin.
True. Is the card of the weekend so far. The Patient Assassin absolutely doing work for Surrender over in APAC. We can take a look at Jarla's side as well. You can see he still has that deck of Lunacy remaining in the deck yet to have an impact, but outside of that, just that 1 Fireball in terms of remaining burn. But he does just have so much burn built up in hand. It's just all there. 2 more Apexis Blast, 2 masks, and a Fireball. The problem comes from the idea that, maybe he's missed the boat a little bit with these masks so far, by not casting them in positions where there's empty boards. He's having to work very, very hard to keep this board clear now. Okay.
Well, that looks good.
That's 13 damage. It is Mozaki lethal, right?
Yeah, well, 14, I guess, right? If you're counting the patient.
Oh, true. True. So it's also Raz lethal.
Aren't we glad you can no longer discover the same card from the card that discovered it? Just imagining, in a different timeline, Rune Orb into Rune Orb into Rune Orb.
So what can you do here? Nothing, right? You can't even get like Primordial start like spell damage discover into Lab Partners. Not even enough mana to do that off the discover.
I was actually a little bit surprised the turn wasn't just like Flame Strike, ping, Rune Orb or something. And just do the little bits of damage and kill off this tiger. Because I do think this minion is a problem.
Oh boy. That sure is a 2-mana fireball. Goes face, 16. That was the last burn card remaining in the deck, as we established on the previous turn, so he can't draw any more cheap burn here. Even if he picks up Aegwynn, he can only fit 1 burn spell in alongside it, so that changes nothing. Felkeine is well within his rights to think he's dead here, by the way. If more of that burn was buried in the deck for the double out... Oh, no, he can fit in double! He can fit in double! Yeah. Oh, I'm insane! That's insane! I wasn't even counting for the discount! I was playing Aegwynn at full cost, but with the 1-mana discount, he can fit in both fireballs. And that ends up just straight up being 16 from hand. And after so much focus on the masks, that entire game from Felkeine playing around them so well, us focusing in on them and thinking, well, Jarla has an opportunity to play a mask here. Should he just jam it? He didn't even need them. He just got the job done with all the rest of the remaining burn. And has to be said that the stealth minion ended up being a huge win for him. Just, you know, not only being 5 extra free damage, but 2 extra free cards being drawn as well. This was an absolute roller coaster of a game 3. It did seem at various points that Felkeine was just so far ahead, but just failed to find that way over the finish line in the end.
I think the only real criticism from me, if we look at that one game, is the Tiger didn't have to be left alive to attack and deal 5, which feels like such a big number in these bursty mirrors. And obviously drawing cards as well, right? I think Felkeine was like 1 damage off lethal this turn coming up. He could have just like pinged and flame striked or done whatever as long as he killed off the Tiger, and then just cast his spells next turn. He had a 0-mana brain freeze he could proc a counter spell for, and if you proc the counter spell, there's no realistic way for Jarla to heal outside of range of the damage, right? So I think for me, like, that was